There's several ways to correct perspective in Photoshop, but I find that using Camera Raw as a filter is often the quickest and most accurate way to make this type of correction. Now, it's important to note that it's always better to correct perspective as early as you can in your workflow. So if you're working with RAW files or you have a JPEG file even, it's better to select them in Bridge and choose Open in Camera Raw. That way you can use the Transform tool to correct the perspective. Or if you're using Lightroom, you can use the Develop module's Transform panel before you open the file into Photoshop. However, sometimes we need to edit multi-layered documents where only a single layer within the document needs to have the perspective corrected, or maybe we just don't have time to go back and edit the original, or we don't have access to the original file. Because I want to apply this correction non-destructively, in the Layers panel, I will right-click next to the background and choose to convert to Smart Object. That's the same as going under the Filter menu and converting for Smart Filters. Because now when I add Camera Raw as a filter, it's going to add it as a Smart Filter, and I can make my edits all non-destructively. So in Camera Raw, on the tools across the top, I can select my Transform tool. Then I can choose from any of the different upright modes to see if Camera Raw can automatically upright the image and correct the perspective. In this case, it does a really nice job, but I'm not actually sure that the wood is straight along here across the top, so I think I can do a better job by using the guided upright, which is this last icon. Now I can draw 2 horizontal and 2 vertical guides in order to straighten this image. I'll start at the top by clicking and dragging over to the right along the wooden area. And then I'll do the same thing at the bottom. You'll notice that nothing changed when I drag the first line. It needs this second line in order to make the correction. Then I'll drag lines on the left side as well as the right side of the windows here, just using them as a guide and hoping, of course, that over the last 100 years, they actually have remained straight. So that looks pretty good. If I need to, I can go in and I can fine-tune these adjustments. I can also hold down the Option key if I want to zoom in and see an area more clearly. When I have the Option key held down, it also slows down my movement of my cursor so that I can be more accurate. There are some additional options that I want to point out in the panel. If I wanted to make some vertical or horizontal changes without using the guided upright, or even after using it, I can do so using the panel. I can also rotate or change the aspect, and this is very convenient because sometimes when you use guided upright with people, well, some pretty horrible things can happen. They can get really squished or they can get really elongated. So you can use the aspect option here in order to make people look more natural after you've used the tool. We can also scale this up or down if there's important areas in the information that you want to be sure that you include. Even though that might add a little bit of white space, you might be able to fill this space with content-aware fill in Photoshop after you make the transformation. We can also offset this to the left or right, or up or down. Now I'm just going to reset the scale to 100, tap the Tab key and zero out those 2 offsets. And when I'm happy with the transformation, I'll click OK. We can see on the Layers panel that because I converted this to a Smart Object before I added the filter, it's been added as a Smart Filter. And that means that I can double click where it says Camera Raw at any time, and that would bring up the document in the Camera Raw workspace where I could make additional changes. For now, I'll click Cancel, but the next time that you need to correct the perspective of an image in Photoshop, be sure to convert the layer to a Smart Object and then apply Camera Raw as a filter non-destructively.